All right, we are now going live via Zoom, where we're joined by Gidi Grinstein, former peace negotiator under Prime Minister Ehud Barak and the founder of the Reut group. Good afternoon on a very, very tense day. Given the obvious, it just seems like from all aspects, there is a lot to cause us pause. So, first of all, your thoughts on the return of the four bodies, technically the end of the first phase, the release of the 600 prisoners that were held up in light of the extremely disturbing presentation and celebration in Gaza before the release of Sherry Bibas and her children in caskets. So, your thoughts?
I'm very, very relieved to see the return of the hostages and the bodies to the full execution of the first phase of the plan. I have to say that I was here on your show and I predicted that the last three exchanges of phase one would not happen, because I thought that the conflicting interest between Israel and Hamas will play out in the way that will block the exchanges and prevent us actually reaching from the full implementation of phase one. But here we are, and extremely relieved, extremely difficult photos and views to watch. But I think most Israelis, all Israelis, are happy to see this phase one come through to an ending. And now begins phase two. President Trump said it very clearly. Phase one is over. We're moving to phase two. With all its challenges, is laying ahead, and we have to bring the rest of them back home as well.
For sure, and bittersweet, because the families are together. They're a unit. Even they're not necessarily, of course, individuals with their own respective loved ones, but they have become one unit. And for this country to move forward, all the hostages need to come home, dead or alive. But given that you are, have experience with negotiations, and we're seeing the back and forth, the deal almost didn't go through because of the 600 prisoners being delayed. Do you have reason to have hope that this second phase will come to pass?
I think there's one reason for people who believe that the second phase should come to pass, obviously not at any price, is the Trump administration. The Trump administration is the reason why we have this deal to begin with. They're kind of putting their fist down, forcing the Israeli side and also the mediators and effectively Hamas also to come together and sign the deal on January 18. And effectively to go through the full implementation of the deal. I personally do not think we would have been here without the Trump administration. So this is where I also believe that if there will be an implementation of the second phase of the deal, it will be because of the Trump team. But we have to be very, very conscious of the tensions that are being played out right now, the political and diplomatic tensions. First of all, let's look at the positions that are laid forward by the Israeli side. The Israeli side is saying that the three basic conditions are the removal of the leadership of Hamas, demilitarization of Gaza, and return of all the hostages. But at the same time, the Israeli side is not saying what's going to happen afterwards. Let's even assume that the Arab side, the Hamas, says yes to all of our demands. What then happens? Is Gaza going to be controlled by Palestinians, by Israelis? There are still factions of the government that want to annex Gaza or parts of Gaza, settle in Gaza. So right now, the Israeli side is not even coming forward with its vision for the possibility, for the scenario, unlikely scenario that the Arab side says yes. Now, If we look at the Palestinian side, Hamas is basically wants full Israeli withdrawal, they're willing to do an exchange of all the hostages for all the prisoners. And they want to see a full kind of control of Gaza by the Palestinian side. There are rumors that they're willing to relinquish control in favor of some sort of undefined Palestinian self-governing body. This is the square that the Americans will need to round. Obviously, that will require extending phase one. We're now at the end of phase one, extending phase one to allow perhaps for more exchanges of hostages and prisoners, but also for the political negotiations about the implementation of phase two. Phase two was not detailed in the deal of January 18, and therefore phase two requires its own implementation agreement. And that's what everybody's going to be focused on in the next few weeks.
Now, also with that said, because, we heard from Trump, this long drawn out, weekly hostage release mixed with people coming out alive, people coming out like we said, in coffins. It is an emotional roller coaster, bringing some relief, but it does not change the grieving process. So, how do you think how important will it be on the agenda to get them all released at once? If Hamas wants all the prisoners released, what does it mean for all the remaining hostages?
So the Americans are very intent, to the best that they can judge, on getting a full release of all hostages. Sadly, this is a message is coming more from Washington than from Jerusalem. The insistence to get a phase 2, because the message from Jerusalem is very questionable about the phase 2. Now, the Americans are also saying something that makes perfect sense. They're saying the reconstruction of Gaza is not a 4 or 5 year project. It's a 15, 20 year project. And we have to think about it in a long-term way. I personally heard Mr. Witkoff saying that 2 days ago in Washington. So the Americans are actually laying out a longer timeline within which they are envisioning the possibility of some move of a Palestinian population. But I have to say that the Trump statement about the future of Gaza actually pushed the Arab side to get serious with their ideas about the future of Gaza. And we saw a meeting in Riyadh, and then next week there's going to be a meeting in Cairo, and hopefully we're going to see some sort of an emerging Arab position that is constructive for the future of Gaza. In my view, the only way to move forward is to actually transition from the third phase of the deal. Okay, so we're now in phase 1, which should have been 6 weeks, moving into phase 2 of 6 weeks. Phase 3 was supposed to be 6 weeks. At the end of phase 3, we will need to move into a transition period of probably 4 years, overlapping the Trump administration, during which there will be the beginning of reconstruction, security, handover of power from Hamas to some sort of a self-governing Palestinian body with some sort of a Palestinian police force. Remember again that the Israeli side wants a demilitarization of Gaza without saying who will enforce the demilitarization. Because enforcing the demilitarization of Gaza requires a strong police force in Gaza. Who's going to be that police force? So these are the questions that are going to have to be answered over the next few weeks. I do believe that you can thread the needle, that you can move forward. There is a diplomatic path moving forward toward the deal of the implementation of the second phase, but it will require tremendous diplomatic boldness, creativity, and determination on the American side, and also on the part of the Egyptians and the Qataris.
All right. Thank you very much for your assessment and explanation. Gidi Grinstein, former peace negotiator under Prime Minister Ehud Barak and founder of the Reut Group. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much for having me.